Good evening and welcome back to Excelsior Academy. So in today's session, we are going to talk about the rest of the organelles like plant vacuoles, nucleus, mitochondria, and chloroplast. So in the previous lectures, we talked about the lysosomes, peroxisomes, and ER and Golgi, right? So let's continue with the other organelles. So the plant vacuoles, the number and size of vacuoles depend on both the type of cell. So we know that in case of animals, the vacuole size is small, whereas in the case of plant, it is large and it occupies around 80% of the mature plant cell. So remember, I have told you once about the bitter gourd case, like why it is bitter in taste, right? Because it has got that bitter component called PTC present in the vacuole. So when you actually start eating, what happens is the vacuole gets ruptured and all that chemical compound is released, and that's why you get that taste. Now there are certain ways by which if you're not able to now why these plants are having all these kinds of chemicals, because this act as their defense mechanism. So once we start the ecology evolution topic, so all those what I have just mentioned now we are going to cover in this sessions. Okay, now so there are many variety of transport proteins in the vacuolar membrane. For example, H plus ATPases. Okay, so they are there and it allow plant cells to accumulate and store water, ions and nutrients. So this is one of the example which is present in the vacuolar membrane. Now what is the name given to the vacuolar membrane? It is called tonoplast. Okay, yes. So like lysosome, the lumen of the vacuole also contains battery of degradative enzymes and has acidic pH. Now this acidic pH is again with the help of H plus ATPase, which is similar to lysosomes as we discussed in the previous lectures. Now which is also maintained by the similar transport proteins in the vacuolar membrane. Now, what kind of functions they have got the vacuoles? They have the storage. They also have the degradative function also. So what kind of degradative function they have? Any idea? You people are from botany, right? So you should tell me. So what kind of degradative functions they have, which is similar to lysosomes in animal cells? What kind of degradative functions? Yes, Mahima? Rinki?
Ma'am, development, plant development, elasticity.
No, they're asking about the degradative. That is like what kind of degradation or proteolytic kind of function is there. So actually your vacuoles also similar to lysosomes. Whenever any functions or any functional organelle is not able to function properly, like how we discussed in the case of mitochondria, or how they get wrapped with the ER and goes to the lysosome once it is not functioning. In the same way also in the case of plant cell, if certain organelles are there, small organelles which are not able to perform properly, so there also they are actually pushed into the vacuoles, and then within the vacuole all these enzymes, hydrolytic enzymes are there which actually cleaves off, and then the entire phospholipids or amino acids or sugars, whatever is present, it gets recycled. Okay, so in the case of plants nothing goes wasted. So this is one example, one figure of electron microscope showing the vacuole. So you can see that this is your vacuole. So maximum space has been taken up by the vacuoles, and then you have got the chloroplast. So how many are there? Around 5 chloroplasts are there. Okay. Then you have got the cell wall, cell membrane, everything is there. Now how they identified that these are the chloroplasts? See, if you can see, you know about the thylakoids, right? So you can see over here how nicely the Grana stacks are there and they are present. So these are the chloroplasts. Now coming to the nucleus. So nucleus is going to play important role. Again, nucleus is having your double membrane system. It is the largest organelle present in the animal cells. Now each phospholipid bilayer contains different types of proteins. Now what you have to remember in this case is about the something called NPC, which we will discuss in the coming sessions in detail. Okay, so what is NPC? NPC stands for your nuclear pore complex. Now this is very important, you have to remember. Now the thing is that this is the only complex which is connecting your outer and inner membrane of nucleus. Okay, so suppose this is your nucleus, you have got the outer and you have got the inner. To this your NPC is present. Now what is the function of NPC? It helps in the movement of molecules like mRNA or proteins. So we know that transcription takes place inside the nucleus, but we know that translation happens outside the nucleus, that is in the cytoplasm. Now how it is transferred? It is transferred through the NPC. Now there are certain proteins which is required for your DNA replication and transcription. So we know that we know that the protein synthesis takes place in the cytoplasm. So all those proteins, after being synthesized in the cytoplasm, are taken inside the nucleus to carry out your DNA replication, your transcription. Okay, so it is only through NPC that the materials will be exchanged between the cytoplasm as well as the nucleoplasm. There is no other way that it can cross, and it is highly regulated. Okay, is it clear? Now, in most cells, the outer membrane is continuous with the rough ER. Yes, this we have seen in the last lecture also. And the space between the inner and outer membrane is continuous with the lumen of the rough ER. So what does it mean? It means that you have got the nucleus over here. This is the inner and this is the outer, right? Now the outer is in continuous with the ER. So the lumen over here between the inner and the outer of nucleus and the lumen, ER lumen, the composition is going to be same. Okay. Now, the two nuclear membrane appears to fuse at nuclear pores. The ring-like complex composes specific membrane proteins through which material moves between the nucleus and the cytosol. And this they are talking about the NPC. You can stop me in between if something is not clear. Okay, guys. Okay, now in this only, in a growing or differentiating cell, the nucleus is metabolically active. So you have got your DNA synthesizing RNA, tRNA, mRNA is there. Now we know that within the nucleus, mRNA binds to specific proteins and they form a ribonucleoparticles, and then they are actually transferred to outside, that is to the cytoplasm. Now some ribosomal proteins are added to ribosomal RNAs within the nucleus as well. What is the function of nucleolus? It is responsible for the synthesis of rRNA. Okay. Now, the finished or partly finished ribosomal subunits as well as tRNA and mRNA pass through nuclear pore into the cytosol for use in protein synthesis. So it's not only your mRNA but also your ribosomal RNAs and tRNAs, which is then transported to the cytoplasm from the nucleoplasm. Now there's something called the I kappa B and NF kappa B. So have you guys heard about this NF kappa B? Do you know what is NF kappa B? Yes? So NF kappa B, and then you have got I kappa B. Okay. Now, why I'm discussing about this is, see, most of the proteins which are present in the cytoplasm, okay, they have got this NF kappa B is there. Now we know that NF kappa B is what? It is your, anyone, full form? Yes, Mahima, do you know the full form of NF kappa B? It is,
No,
it is actually your transcription factor. Okay.
Nuclear factor kappa, right?
Yes, correct. It is a transcription factor. So of course it is required in the nucleus, inside the nucleus. Correct. Now, but it is present in the cytoplasm. Now in the cytoplasm, it is present bound with the I kappa B. What is I kappa B then? I stands for inhibitory. Okay. Now please remember this. It is important actually because this comes under the regulation of nucleus. Now, since it is present, now I kappa B and NF kappa B both are bound. Now once I kappa B is removed, now how it will be removed? So these comes under the regulation where I kappa B gets phosphorylated. Okay, so it is getting phosphorylated. Now once this gets phosphorylated, what happens? I kappa B changes its structure or conformation. So what will happen when there is a conformational change? So I kappa B is no longer able to bind to the NF kappa B. Now your NF kappa B is free. Now this will be taken inside the nucleus through NPC. Now in NPC itself, you have got two types of proteins. Please remember, those are called exportins and importins. Now, if I'm taking NF kappa B from cytoplasm to the nucleoplasm, so what kind of proteins it should be? Like India buys something from the different country. What is it called? Export or import then?
Import.
Import, correct. So in the same way, when you want to take something from the cytoplasm to the nucleoplasm, it is the importance. So importance will go and bind to NF kappa B, goes and binds to the NPC, which is present on the outer inner nucleus, your membrane, it is present over here. So NF kappa B bound with the importance will go and bind to the NPC, and finally your NF kappa B will be released inside the nucleoplasm. Okay, is it clear? So initially the proteins which are required, any transcription factor or any enzymes which are required, its function in the nucleus, it is present in the cytoplasm in its inactive form. So once it is required or it is activated, then these are the mechanism, either inhibitory mechanisms are there or casping mechanisms are there. So once they are required inside the nucleoplasm, they will be removed, and with the help of these importance proteins from the NPC, that is nucleopore complex, it will be transferred into the nucleus. Okay, is this clear, this portion? Because this will come in again and again in detail. So every time when we talk about the nucleus, this is one of the regulations which is important to be understood. So is it clear, this portion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes. So we discuss about this. So this is the electromicrograph again of the nucleus. You have got the nucleolus over here. So wherever you see the dark component, those are your heterochromatin. Now what do you mean by a heterochromatin? So two types of chromatins we know. We have heard of it, heterochromatin, and the other one is called euchromatin. Right? Now, Rinki, what do you mean by heterochromatin?
Ma'am, that is an area that is darkly stained and less active.
Yes, I mean in this case it is the dark patches present is the heterochromatin, and it is the less active. What do you mean by less active? It is a region which is not
Genes are.
expressed. Yes, genes are not expressed. Very good. So euchromatin means where the genes are being expressed. Good. Now coming to the mitochondria. So we know about the mitochondria. What you have to remember, see, this one is also important, even though it doesn't look that much important, but this sentence that it is the 25% of cytoplasmic volume as the mitochondria, this sentence is important because in most of the numericals, they ask these kind of questions. Okay, so like suppose this much is the cytoplasmic proteins are there, cytoplasmic organelles volume is given. So what will be the and the one mitochondria volume is this much. So how many mitochondria are present in a cell? So these kinds of questions will come. So if you have rough estimation of the volume, then it becomes easy actually. So you don't have to calculate from the option itself. You will know the answer then. Are you getting the point? Sometimes they give you so much of the volume, the cytoplasmic volume is given, and then they will give you the volume of one mitochondria. Then they will ask how many mitochondria are present in the cell. So it is actually easy. If you know the cytoplasmic volume, just divide the volume of the mitochondria. So you will get the number of mitochondria. Okay, but if you remember that it is actually around the 25% of the total cytoplasmic volume, then looking at the options given, you can actually guess the answer. So you don't have to do the calculation. And sometimes people do get confused, like the moment they see the numericals, they get confused how exactly to be carried out. So if you just remember that it is around the 25%, then from the option itself, you can actually guess the answer. Okay, so we know that mitochondria, it is the main site for ATP
Ma'am,
production.
repeat
Which portion? This one? About the calculation?
volume portion.
Okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
what I was saying was, suppose the question is given that given question is having, suppose 2000 or is the cytoplasmic volume of a animal cell. Okay. Suppose this is a given question. Now they are saying that the mitochondria volume is around 50. So how many mitochondria are present in the cytoplasm of an animal cell, they're asking. So you need to calculate the number of mitochondria. By reading the question, many students get confused like how exactly to be carried out the numerical, right? So usually it is very simple. So what you have to do is total cytoplasmic volume divided by the volume of the given mitochondria. So how much you are getting? Around 40. Okay. So around this should be the answer of your given question. But if suppose you don't know and you're not sure about the calculations, what you can do is just remember that it is actually constituting around 25% of the cytoplasmic volume. So if you know this value, what you can do is whatever the value of the cytoplasmic volume is given, just calculate 25% of it. So then the given option you can check. So you can get the nearby or approximately which one is coming near to the answer will be your correct answer. Are you getting now?
Yes, ma'am.
So yes, and we know that mitochondria is responsible for your ATP production. Yes, we already know about this thing. Now again, mitochondria similar to your chloroplast and nucleus, it is again the double membrane system. Now whenever we talk about double membrane system, you need to remember there's something called endomembrane theory or endosymbiote theory is there. Okay, so we'll discuss that also later. Now, the outer and inner membrane of mitochondria, they both are having different expression of the proteins. Now, if when we observe the outer membrane of the mitochondria, it was found that it is made up of lipids and the proteins, and mainly it contains porins. So remember about the porins, where we have studied about the porins in the gram-negative bacteria. Remember? We studied about the porins, that it helps in removing the waste products from their system like drugs sometimes also. And porins are, they are the exceptions, that they are made up of beta sheets instead of alpha helices, right? So if you remember the previous lecture, so there are 16 sheets are there, and total 3 proteins are there, 3 subunits are there. Okay, so porins, it has got the 3 subunits, and each subunit has got the 16 beta sheets. So total around 48 beta sheets are present, which is making the porin into a cylindrical kind of system by which all those materials or the waste products has been expelled out. Okay, now when we so when all these porins and the other proteins and lipids were studied, it was found that it is similar to the outer membrane of gram-negative bacteria like E. coli. Okay, so this slide also becomes important to remember. Now, so in case of non-photosynthetic cells, the principal fuels for ATP synthesis are fatty acids and glucose. So when you talk about non-photosynthetic cells, we are talking about us, right? Animal cells. Animal cells are non-photosynthetic, and our ATP synthesis fuel is fatty acids and glucose. Now, so we also know that when we have the complete aerobic degradation of glucose, around 30 molecules of ATP is synthesized. So this will study, like in glycolysis, you get actually 2 ATP molecules. So in reality, it is 4 ATP, but we also use 2 ATP in order to carry out the glycolysis. So net gain is 2 ATP. So it's okay if you remember. If you don't also, that's also fine. We'll study in detail everything. Now, at the end, what happens? So you have got the reducing equivalents in the form of NADH and FADH2, which goes in and enters your electron transport chain, and finally we get the maximum amount of ATP generated. Okay, so that is called your oxidative phosphorylations. Now coming to the chloroplast. So chloroplast, again, it's a double membrane system. Again, outer inner membrane is there. Now extra membrane is present in the case of chloroplast, that is your thylakoid. So I'm sure you guys know more than me about the thylakoids, grana, stroma, everything is there. So thylakoids often form these sacs called grana and they're embedded in the stroma. Now tell me, where does the Kelvin cycle take place? What is C3 cycle, Kelvin cycle? Yes, Rinki, Kelvin cycle takes place where? In the stroma, in the cytoplasm, grana, where does it take place? Yes?
Thylakoids.
No, it is the cytoplasm. I just wanted
Dark.
to confuse you. Thylakoid means what? Over
Uh,
you don't only photophosphorylation is there, right? So you will have all your light harvesting complexes like LHC 1 and 2, photosystem 1, 2. Remember, for P680 we write and P700 we write. It means what photosystem gets activated at the wavelength of 680. Photosystem getting activated at the 700 nanometer wavelength. Cyclic, non-cyclic photophosphorylation. Getting something you are able to remember now. So all these are there.
Yes, ma'am.
Responsible for your thylakoid system. Okay, so they are present on the thylakoids, and we'll study in detail. Don't worry. So eventually, this was just the introduction to the organelles, and from the next lecture onwards, we are going in detail. Okay, so when we are going in detail, it will include all your biochemistry and tool and techniques also. So along with one topic, 2-3 topics will be getting covered. So some of the ATPs used to convert CO2 into 3 carbon intermediates by the enzymes located in the stroma. Finally, what happens? Whatever CO2 is taken, it is converted into the sugar. Okay, so that is how the photosynthesis takes place. Now, okay, so this is again the electromicrograph of plant chloroplast. So you can see the chloroplast is there, thylakoids are there, these granas are there. You can see the darkly stained one. If you see, then stroma, then the starch granules over here. So those are the storage food material which is present. Now before I end this, there is one more information about it. So what happens if suppose the scientists are trying to make animal cells photosynthetic. I'm not sure whether you have heard of this news or not, but what will happen if the scientists are successful in making animal cells into photosynthetic? What will be the consequences? What are your views? Yes? Question is clear, right? So we know that animal cells are not photosynthetic. We are heterotrophs, and that's why we are depending on the plants for our food material. So now the scientists, they are trying to make animal cells, like for example, let us say that humans are becoming photosynthetic in nature. So what will be the consequences? What will happen to the planet Earth, or what will happen to us? What do you think? Yes?
Ma'am, please repeat the question. I didn't get it.
Okay. Mahima, I'm saying that what will happen if you become photosynthetic in nature?
Ma'am, how is this possible?
First of
Because
all,
for photosynthesis, thylakoid and chloroplast is needed.
uh, so what happens? Let us assume that animal cells are having now chloroplast. Let us assume there's nothing wrong in imagination, right? So let us assume that animal cells are having chloroplast. So what will be the consequences?
Then we can synthesize our food by sunlight.
Yes. But then again, what will happen?
But a carbon dioxide is not there.
Huh? So animal cells
In
have,
photosynthesis, but we expire, no?
we expel CO2, and if we become photosynthetic, we will take back the CO2. Correct?
How is this possible?
I mean, it is not possible right now, but see, in science and in scientific discoveries, anything can be possible. We don't know what will be in the future. So the consequences, what I wanted to listen is that, first of all, yes, I agree it is not possible. And even if that happens, is the balance is going to get disturbed of your CO2,
Yes, ma'am.
of oxygen also, because animal cells need oxygen. Photosynthetic plants, they give out oxygen, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So the balance of these gases is going to get disturbed. Then what will happen? As humans, we will stop working because we'll all stand in the sunlight to get our photosynthesis. Food will be there. What will happen?
Yes.
There won't be any role of plants and trees. Correct? So the entire ecosystem is going to get disturbed. Entire ecosystem,
Yes.
entire biosphere. Finally, I can say that the entire Earth is going to get disturbed. Right? So it's good that in nature or by God grace, this is not possible. But if you see in the lab, there are few people who are claiming, those scientists, they are claiming that by 2050, they are trying to make animal cells photosynthetic. Once I get that research article, I'll share with you guys. Okay. So it is interesting to know, and you know what we can see. Anyways, okay. So that was all about today's class. And yes, any doubts are there?
Yes, ma'am.
Huh.
Ma'am, then what will happen to the plants?
That's what I'm saying. Na? If we are doing ourselves, if we are making our own food, we don't need plants, right?
Yes.
So what we'll do?
But we need them for oxygen.
No, if we are photosynthetic, we ourselves will give out the oxygen and we'll take back the oxygen. Are you getting the point? There won't be any release of oxygen and CO2 if we are photosynthetic in nature.
Okay.
So there won't be any role of plants. Eventually, anyways, without being photosynthetic, we have started deforestation. Once we become photosynthetic, we don't need plants. So what will happen? We'll remove the entire plants. So our earth will be without any plants and trees. So the ecosystem gets disturbed. Hence, the earth gets disturbed. That will be the complete
Yes.
devastation of the planet. Okay. I mean, this is what my views are, but let's see what happens by 2050 if we all are surviving till that time. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me just share that research article once I find, or you can also search by 2050, animal cells becoming photosynthetic, like that. Just search, you might get certain articles. Okay. Yeah. So from tomorrow onwards, we'll start with the in detail all those topics. Okay, of all the organelles. There is one more topic about the cytoskeleton proteins are there, and then purification. So once we complete that, then we'll start from the 8th edition of the book. Okay. Yes. So thank you for listening. I hope you like the video. So please share and subscribe, and share with your friend circle also. So let's study together for the upcoming exams. Any comments and suggestions are also appreciated, and any queries are there will be solved quickly. You can also write to us on Excelsior Academy 1228 at gmail.com. Keep watching, keep excelling with us. Thank you.